Welcome to Astrid's Tales. Let's dive into our next story.
The accusation came on a Tuesday, shattering the quiet domesticity of our suburban home. "I know what you've been doing, Sarah," Mark said, his voice a low, unfamiliar rumble. He stood in the middle of our living room, his arms crossed, his face a mask of cold fury. Our 5-year-old daughter, Lily, was asleep upstairs, blissfully unaware that our world was about to implode. "Doing?" "Mark, what are you talking about?" I asked, my heart beginning to hammer against my ribs. He let out a short, bitter laugh. "Don't play dumb. I know you've been seeing someone." The word struck me with physical force. Cheating. The idea was so alien, so contrary to the life I had meticulously built, that I could only stare at him in disbelief. My life was Mark, Lily, and my part-time graphic design work. There was no room for anything, or anyone, else. "That's not true," I said, my voice shaking. "I would never do that." "Oh, I think you would," he sneered, pulling out his phone. "In fact, I know you did. I read your diary." For a moment, I was just confused. My diary wasn't a physical book, but a private journaling app on my tablet, password protected. I used it to jot down design ideas, frustrations about deadlines, and funny things Lily said. It was mundane, not scandalous. "You read my journal?" He ignored the violation of privacy. "It's all in there. The late-night meetings, the freelance projects, the guilt. You wrote it all down." This was the beginning of the end. In the weeks that followed, Mark's accusation became his reality. He moved into the guest room and spoke to me only in clipped, hostile sentences. He filed for divorce and, initial custody filing, cited my instability and infidelity, claiming I was an unfit mother. His proof, he declared, was my own confession in my digital diary. My lawyer, a sharp woman named Ms. Davies, looked grim. "He's going to use those entries to paint you as erratic and dishonest. Sarah, if a judge believes him, he could get sole custody." The night after that meeting, I finally opened the journaling app for the first time in months. My hands trembled as I scrolled back through the entries. What I found made my blood run cold. Interspersed with my own mundane posts were new entries, written in a style that mimicked my own but was laced with a venomous self-loathing. I didn't recognize. October 12th. Saw him again today. The risk is half the thrill. Mark is so oblivious. Sometimes I think he deserves it. October 21st. I feel so alive, but the guilt is eating at me. I look at Lily and feel like a monster. But I can't stop. November 5th. He almost found out. I had to lie, and it was so easy. Too easy. Who have I become? The entries were fabricated, but they were chillingly effective. They detailed a fictional affair, creating a portrait of a woman spiraling out of control. It was a diary I never wrote. The timestamp on each fake entry corresponded to a time I was verifiably occupied at a client meeting, at the grocery store, even asleep. But Mark had been careful. He had created a narrative so plausible, so insidious, that it was my word against my own supposed confession.
He wasn't just trying to leave me.
He was trying to erase me, to rewrite my identity into that of a volatile, unfaithful woman who didn't deserve her own child. Despair was a physical weight, pressing down on me. How could I prove a negative? How could I show that these words, which existed in my own private space, were not my own? Instead of crumbling, however, a cold, clear anger began to solidify in my gut. He had underestimated me. He thought he could break me with this elaborate deception. But he had only ignited a resolve I didn't know I possessed. The next day, I called Miss Davies with a new plan. "I think Mark planted those entries," I told her, my voice firm. "I need to prove it." She was skeptical but listened. "That's a serious claim. We'll need more than a hunch." "I'll get it," I promised. My search led me to a digital forensics expert named Kenji Tanaka. He was a quiet, meticulous man who worked out of a small, server-filled office downtown. I explained the situation, feeling a flush of shame as I described the fake entries. Kenji listened without judgment, his expression unreadable. "I'll need access to the tablet, your phone, and your home network logs," he said finally. If he did this, he left a digital footprint. People always do. Handing over my personal devices felt like another violation, but it was a necessary one. For the next week, I lived in a state of suspended animation, waiting for his call. Every day was a battle to maintain composure for Lily. To shield her from the tension that filled our home like a thick fog. The call came on a Friday afternoon. "I've got something," Kenji said. "Can you come to my office?" In his office, Kenji pulled up a complex diagram on his monitor. "The entries were created on your tablet, but not by you," he began. He pointed to a series of data packets. "Your tablet's IP address shows it was on your home Wi-Fi network during the creation of every fake entry. However, at the same time, your phone's GPS data places you miles away on multiple occasions. At your office? A coffee shop, your daughter's school," he continued. "The real smoking gun is here." He highlighted another set of logs. "Mark used a remote access tool to mirror your tablet to his own laptop. He did it late at night, after you were asleep. He typed the entries on his computer, and the software mirrored his keystrokes onto your device, making it look like the entry originated there." He was sloppy. He forgot to scrub the remote access software's installation logs. Kenji had found it all: the date and time the software was installed, the IP address of Mark's laptop connecting to my tablet, and the logs of each session where a fake entry was created. It was an airtight digital deconstruction of Mark's lie. I stared at the screen, tears of relief and rage blurring my vision. "He did it," I whispered. "He really did all this."
He did, Kenji confirmed.
"And we can prove it." The custody hearing was 2 weeks later. Mark sat beside his lawyer looking confident and righteous. When his lawyer presented printouts of the diary entries, a hush fell over the courtroom. He then called a psychologist who testified, based on the entries, that I exhibited signs of a personality disorder and impulsive behavior. It was a calculated, brutal character assassination. When it was Ms. Davies' turn, she didn't call me to the stand. She called Kenji Tanaka. Over the next hour, Kenji calmly and methodically presented his findings. He explained the remote access software, the IP logs, the GPS data from my phone. He showed the court, with undeniable forensic evidence, how Mark had digitally puppeteered my journal to create a false narrative. The damning timeline he presented left no room for doubt. Mark's face went from smug to confused to ashen white. He started to object, stammering that the evidence was fabricated, but the judge silenced him with a sharp look. The digital trail was absolute. Miss Davies drove the point home. "Your Honor, this was not a simple marital dispute. This was a premeditated campaign of psychological manipulation designed to defraud this court and strip a loving mother of her child." The judge's ruling was swift and severe. I was granted sole legal and physical custody of Lily. Mark was given only supervised visitation, pending a mandatory psychological evaluation. A permanent restraining order was issued citing his extreme and malicious conduct. Walking out of the courthouse, I held Lily's hand, the afternoon sun feeling warmer than it had in months. I had not only saved myself, but I had protected my daughter from a man willing to destroy her mother for his own gain. The life I had with Mark was gone, burned away by his deceit. But in its place, something stronger was growing. I had found a resilience I never knew I had. The diary he wrote to destroy me had, in the end, become the key to my liberation.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this story, click like and subscribe for more.